We have a semi-lockdown now where everything rolls up at 9 o'clock at night. Can't go outside without a mask. Things are getting tighter because the number of cases of the coronavirus have gone up. So during the first lockdown, I felt like I wanted to do something because there was so much chatter about what was happening, and there were lots of different points of view being shouted about, basically, mostly in America, but some here as well, about what we should do, how we should behave, wear a mask, don't wear masks. In any case, I had a lot of time in front of me. So I made one little comic where I blanked out a 1930s comic strip by this man named Brantôme that I had bought at a flea market. And I blanked out all of the speech bubbles, made them white. And I essentially picked up the language used by some teenagers and college students who were in Florida enjoying spring break. And the virus was basically everywhere at that time. And so some kid, if you look at the second image I posted there, Coronaville 1 OK copy, you'll see that's the first one I did. And this one kid said on television, in his bathing suit, in a mass of people down in Daytona Beach, I believe, if I get corona, I get corona. And then Trump came out and said something like he doesn't accept responsibility. And I'm like, wow, that's really powerful. So let me just simply put those things together. And that was the first one. And I posted it, and a friend saw it, and he said, wow, so you're very political. And I always thought of myself as being political, but never really made political art myself. Somebody's, okay, oh, there we go. Thanks very much, David.
Sure.
So there you have it. And I guess in some ways I took a cynical, ironic attitude towards the whole thing. And I played both sides of the coin. I said, oh yeah, corona is good. Let's all get it. Because he wanted it, he wanted to embrace it. And I said, okay, let me go and do that and see how that sounds. It makes me sound a little right wing. And yet at the same time, I'm laying out something that was essentially flowing through the news media. So it was all true. You couldn't say that wasn't true. But the way I put it together, it suddenly resonated with me and gave me the idea over the next 39 days of the lockdown to make another one and another one and another one. And I couldn't stop, obviously.
Matthew, let me just ask if everybody can see the image, please.
Yeah, I think David shared
it. I could share it again. Sure. Let me get it.
But I'm actually,
yeah, sure.
I'm supposed to share it, but okay, David, if you would take care of it, then I'm taking mine off because obviously it's not working.
Okay.
So is that okay, Matthew? Or did you want me to pull it down or put something else up?
Well, just, yeah, I mean, you could take it down when you know, we move on to something else. It's all fine. Thanks for that.
Of course.
So
Small, isn't it?
that was my approach. And as you can tell by just looking at the page, I typed things up, I cut them up, I glued them down. I didn't try to turn it into a very clean looking comic. It was very obvious that I was pasting in words. And the way I wrote this was essentially to type out pages and pages of text and then sit down, take a scissor, cut them up, and put them in those speech bubbles and construct the narrative that way. So it was an interesting kind of writing for me because I was editing and writing with scissors, and is typical of how I work, essentially making collage work. So it just seemed to flow. and I had a certain number of pages, so I was fairly comfortable with the idea that this could go on for a while because the virus was not going away. It was not going to magically disappear. And it was a way for me to, I suppose, to, I mean, I wouldn't say therapeutic, but it was a way for me to deal with the increasing stress of this thing, because I'm not young. If I get it, I'm certain, you know, it's not going to be pretty. So.
Did you identify with any of the figures?
No.
Or how did you identify with any, or?
Oh, okay. Well, I saw them as, I created this village, this Potemkin village of Coronaville. And in Coronaville, everybody's white and everybody is in denial. And they're happy about this stuff, but they also sometimes let slip out the truth. So there is a truth in saying, if I get corona, I get corona. However, we know better now that if I get corona, it's my responsibility, obviously, not to let anyone else get it. I mean, I think that is. Some people don't feel that way. Some people behave atrociously. In any case, no, I don't identify with these people, but I saw them as actors in this terrible reality play that was hurting people. And they themselves, you know, all fresh-faced and you know, athletic, and they're like, they're living in a dream world, and that's Coronaville.
Yeah, it so incredibly captures what's going on. And I talked to somebody in Prague today, and I said, you know, you all think you're so intellectual, and then look at you, you run around with a mask, and you even went to a demonstration yesterday. What's the matter? Obviously, you know, Czech Republic is one of the countries that has a almost total lockdown here in Europe now again.
Actually, Czechoslovakia has more new cases than anyone else.
Right, Czech Republic.
As of today.
Yeah, and so this, you know, the idea that we're all educated beings, or somehow we think we're slipping into the 21st century as beings with the brain, and leave alone we consider ourselves as rational beings, that something like that is possible to happen is pretty remarkable. If we talk about us as a humanity, obviously not everybody's the same, right?
Right. I can, yeah, if I can, I'll just say one other thing about the construction of these texts. Please. Because this is a writer's salon. So I did want to say my interest in many ways is and has been for years, is about language, even though sometimes my writing leaves something to be desired. It can be, it needs editing, as I think Roberta will and Larry will confirm.
Not so much, not so much.
Okay.
The ideas are there. That's the most important part.
Thank you, Roberta. So with this, it was very interesting because it was all editing, you know, and I had to edit for space. I had one little panel. So one of the things that interested me that was coming out of the news, what I read, what I listened to, what I saw on the net, on you know, the new sort of TV, was how language had been used, number one, to fuel the politics of our current era, of the Trump era, basically. But I suppose that's always been the case. I mean, George Orwell's Politics and Language, and the English Language, was published in 1946. 1984 is a book from the 50s. Animal Farm also, and that's all essentially about language. So that's always been an interest of mine. So,
okay, David.
Pardon?
I'm sorry, David, what's going on there?
Oh, this is just the Instagram feed for if you want to follow Matthew on Instagram.
Yeah, okay,
Yes,
please,
oh, sorry.
let's concentrate on what he's saying.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. So, I mean, a good interest, a powerful interest of mine is language and how it's used and how malleable it is and how it's used to distort and what was that phrase that Steve Jobs used sometimes, was to sort of distort the reality field by telling people, yes, you can finish this project in a week when it's really a month-long project. He was able to do that with language and, of course, the presence of his powerful persona. Now we have, and I'm sure you've all noticed it, is a kind of a sloganeering that is nonstop. And I suppose Twitter's to blame for that. Maybe Zoom is too, because we don't have that much time. We don't have the leisure anymore to lay things out, to critically assess, to go back and forth, and critically filter out the garbage and ascertain really what's important. I mean, just a tiny little thing here that began with Trump years ago is this Make America Great slogan of his, MAGA. And for me, that shorthand term, MAGA, which appears everywhere, it's like baby talk. And it reduces reality to something that is not real. And it's used as a shorthand, and it doesn't really help anybody understand anything. I mean, for one thing, that slogan was stolen from Ronald Reagan's campaign in 1980. It's not even his, but it doesn't matter as long as it's repeated again and again and again. So that is indicative of the kind of doublespeak that permeates our climate, our current political climate, where people say one thing and it's not like it means something else. It doesn't mean anything. So that's something that is was interesting to me as I was cutting these things, these texts up that I grabbed from conversations and from radio shows and the newspaper, or just thinking out loud, and gluing them down.
So you mentioned journalistic ethics, that of course every journalist used to learn in his during his apprentice time, and now these gates are the guards are not there at the gates because the gates are open, and now it's really about individual responsibility and ethics, and so that's one thing you were mentioning, and I wanted to ask you. Obviously, you're playing on Pleasantville, and first I was wondering if you were playing on Les Mademoiselles de Belleville, and especially
that's different.
since I haven't read your book and seen your book, then now I understand that it's about Pleasantville, that we all live in this Pleasantville more and more. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a reflection of that, and a joke and a play on that, and the people who populate this Coronaville are what are now being called Kens and Karens, which is also another kind of shorthand for these privileged white people who believe that they are owed things like tax cuts and parking spaces and right of way and all things that they do. And unfortunately, Trump has and the people around him have promoted this kind of debt that society owes them because they are white, because they have money, and you see it all the time. I mean, people are nonstop videotaping or iPhone videoing these situations that take place in parking lots and in Starbucks and in McDonald's, where somebody cuts ahead of them and then they yell at them and they don't wear a mask, and then they cough in their face and somebody gets punched out. I mean, there's gazillions of videos of this happening right now, of these people who feel themselves being privileged, and they're owed this kind of obedience.
There's a big deal of this capitalist socialism here in Germany as well right now with Corona, where people just think they have a right to something that, you know, they shouldn't have a right to, and that the state should provide this and that. What's that like in France? I was wondering, because and we get right back to your book, but relating to that, because the idea of freedom is so special, such a particular one in as we're seeing in France. How do you perceive that? The relationship to the state and what the state should or should not do.
Let me talk for a moment about Japan. I was in Japan in December for an exhibition. I spent 3 weeks, basically after the exhibition, wandering around Japan. And I mean, most of the people in Japan are Japanese. It's a monoculture. And Japan was one of the first countries hit with the coronavirus because of a cruise ship that docked, I think it was in Yokohama. And there was some folks who had come from China who were infected with the virus, and it hit Japan, and they determined that there was a hotspot on the ship, so they locked them up, basically. And everyone was terrified of that. Well, the public health minister in Japan, I don't know his name or her name, said, listen, you have to wear masks. You've got to do this. And because it's a monoculture, and because everyone understands the collective, it's not a socialist country, but they have this socialist mentality where everyone is respected in society. The person who sweeps the leaves in front of the temple, and the person who runs Sony. There's no hierarchy in that way that I detected, and from what I can tell. So everyone said, okay, we have to do this for everybody. Okay, in America it's very different. In France, it's not a monoculture, but most people here now, without the tourists, are French. And everyone's got their own idea of what it is to be French. And you can tell from the last elections here, where you have very angry right-wing people who do not like foreigners. They want to close the borders. And then other people who just do not care at all about the public good. So just to give you an illustration, I live on a market street with 20 cafes and supermarkets. Right now, there's another 30 minutes left. People are sitting in cafes inside with no masks, and they're all clumped together like they always were, even though they know that they are spreading the virus right now. So, I mean, they say, if I get it, I get it, but that's not the point. The point is, if they get it, they're liable to give it to someone else. Everyone knows that. Anyone with a mind who pays attention to what's happening knows that's the case now. So why are they doing that? I don't know. Do they think they're expressing their freedom or their liberté? I don't know. I don't really want to talk to them, and I think that's part of the problem. But when I do talk to them, like I said, we're standing in line at a bakery, a boulangerie. I said, there was some guy there who didn't have a mask on. I'm like, put on your mask. He's right next to me. You know, he doesn't think that he owes me anything because he's being free.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's the idea of freedom. Now, has there been any art besides your book? Has there been any art out in the street?
The most interesting,
obviously, sorry.
The most interesting public art that I've seen is a group, and there was an article in the New York Times about this group of women who have been posting letters and forming giant phrases all over Paris about men abusing women. They call it femicide. And it's very powerful. I don't have it in front of me, but if you look on the New York Times, you'll see a beautiful article about their effort. And it's well done, and they're very open, and that's everywhere. That's what I've seen. Nothing about Corona specifically in the street, but there are people doing it, of course.
Now, why don't you, by the way, we have now about 4 minutes left. And for those who don't know, you can come back for another session of half an hour if you wish. And Matthew, if you wish, by going back to your email and clicking again on the same link. So that means when we all go blank, then please go back to your email and click back on the link if you wish. So Matthew, would you like to maybe with either my or David's help put up a few more pages and say something?
Yeah, I can do that. Well, all these, I hope they all stay in the chat.
I invite you also to read the bubbles, because I don't know how big your computers are, but I'm on a fairly small screen and I can't read it, and maybe I'm not the only one.
Okay, so this is a fun one. Let's see, I gotta go it that way.
I see Alex is almost glued to the screen. He may have the same problem as I do.
Okay. So here's a little one here. I'll put a bunch up. Maybe that's the easiest way to do it.
Now, if I put this up, but this one we had, so let me put up. Do you see that? If I put this up, do you see that? I cannot see you now, but do you see this on your screen now?
I do not.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
It says, so Dr. Rose invented imbecilin Eureka. Is that the one?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And here's another one. This one I mentioned before. I'll take a moment for it to load. Okay, can you share that on the screen? Because it's a full page.
Matthew, can you just give us the page number also? That would help.
Yeah, sure. It's episode 30.
Okay, thanks.
Hold on, this is the last one you sent? 30,
Yeah,
here, 30.
Yeah, episode 30. And so that's like, for me, day 30 of the initial epidemic lockdown. Can you share that on the screen, David?
I think I am.
Okay.
So there it is.
This is called, this episode is called Escape from Corona Island. And all Trump hospital, I'll just read it, right?
At the same time.
Can everybody read it? I mean.
Yeah.
No,
Sort
it's
of.
too
No,
small.
Please read it, Matt. Please read it
Okay.
and explain. Just talk about it and read it also.
Okay, here we go. So the top left panel. All Trump hospital doctors and nurses have diplomas from Trump University and wear Ivanka brand clothes. And the woman says, as she touches her husband, Corona is good to me. And the husband says, what month is this? It's Trump time all the time. A fucking miracle.
Yeah.
And then the narrator says, congratulations, Johnny. Clear sailing right from your sweat-stained sheets to the ICU. And then the woman says, I heard Junior is going to run for president. And the baby says, MAGA. And the father says, imagine that. Nothing really fucking matters. And then in another panel, Corona Island, Trump TV, always on, rallies at 5 p.m., shootings on 5th. And one man says, another month of stimulus checks. And then the other man says, you got to hand it to Jared. And then here's also on Corona Island, a woman says to a man, just got a Murder Hornets t-shirt from Amazon for contributing to the Trump Foundation. And then the man says, why don't you live stream your Corona? And then the woman says, I wish Ivanka was president. And the man says, that'd get good ratings. Give us Corona or give us death. So,
yeah.
I mean, it goes on like that, where people are embracing this, as you can tell, this nonsense. But so one of the things about this project is that I would make these panels and post them every single day on my Instagram. So that for some people, it was almost like a daily ration of comics and a kind of relief. People said to me as I posted them that they look forward to it, that it was different from the talking heads on CNN or Fox News. It had a different vibe to it. And some people, a friend of mine in San Francisco said, you know, you're pretty mean. You know, people are dying. So in another panel, I don't know how quickly I could find it. Let me see if I could. He said, you know, there's something really ugly about this. So I said, okay. So I can't find the exact episode, but what I did was I wrote a, maybe I could find it in the book. I did an episode where people write to Coronaville, and it was, "Dear Coronaville," I mean, something of that nature. You know, your comic is really awful. People are dying. What's wrong with you? What's your problem? And it was an interesting way for me to sort of break that fourth wall of the narration of the comic book itself. Let me see if I could find it here. Maybe somebody can find it. I hadn't planned on talking about it, so. But it was a good thing for me to do.
Reflected right into the artwork.
Yeah, and I think it gave it another dimension.
Totally.
Episode 22, Matthew.
Okay, here we go. 22. All right, let me share that. That would be useful for everybody.
David, you hop in?
I don't have the book, no.
Come right
I
here.
mean,
Thank you, Michael.
he's sharing it.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Sure.
Here we go.
Here. David, why can I not share it?
You could share.
But it doesn't work. Why?
If you hit share screen,
Yeah.
and then pick the panel that the download is in, and then click share on the lower right, and then it'll go to everyone. Like that's here. It'll just go big. So just
it says like iPhone. I mean, I don't know which panel it's in.
All right. Well, I mean, just to speed it along, David, can you just share that?
Yeah, let's do this.
I thought you were sharing it, Matt. Okay, then I have to download it to share it. I thought you had it, you know, already downloaded.
Can go to chat.
Yeah, I have to do that, but I wasn't prepared to do that. So I thought, I mean, I could do it, but I have to go to chat and download it. If someone has it, you could screen share it. Like,
I mean, I'm sharing it, but I don't think you're seeing it.
I'm not, no. But that's why I could tell you. I mean, I'd be happy to share it.
There.
Like, yeah, there it is. I see it.
Okay, good. So it worked now.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is letters to Coronaville. And then
let's read it again, please.
I'll read it again.
Yeah.
The top part says, "The land of the free and the home of the fuck you." Oh, look, here's some viewer mail. "Dear Coronaville, your asinine comic is a craven attempt to blame Junior and Ivanka and Jared. You're unfair to bleach drinkers. You're insensitive to people who just want to shoot their fucking guns to celebrate their freedom and kill the occasional bat. Corona is a Chinese bioweapon." Signed, Lou Dobbs. So there we go. That was a letter from Lou Dobbs. And here's another. "Yo, Coronaville, what is the point of your comic strip? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're the fucking virus." Meaning that talking about it is the virus, which is what all the Trump people were saying. You know, why, you know, the more you talk about the virus, the longer we're going to have it, as if that makes any sense.
Stop the testing.
And then here's another one. "Listen to this, Johnny. Dear Coronaville, could you move my ventilator to the right? I can't see the Instagram." And then this person, who's really my friend Jim, says, "Your fucking cartoon is really insensitive." That's what he said. Yepers, hard choices, Second Amendment, Instagram, hashtags, or Bible-thumping ventilator selfies. Hey, Coronaville, now guess what? Murder fucking hornets. If you remember in the spring, we had the fear of these giant hornets. So that was my little bit there to kind of,
So let me ask you something. You obviously have the screen of being away as an expat, of being away. Do you think you would have done it the same way? Would you have done it at all
no.
if you had been in the US?
I think that
Mhm.
being in France is a vantage point that affords me, I don't know, I might be stark raving mad if I was living in America. It's hard to say. I mean, many of you,
Yeah.
ask a question instead of me just going.
Are we stuck? No.
No, we're not
What did you
stuck.
say, Matthew? What did you say? I didn't hear the whole thing.
I was saying that if folks wanted to ask a question or questions about the book or what I meant or what it's about or what the
That would be good if we could also keep seeing images from the book too, so
Okay.
we get more of an idea about it.
Okay, sure.
Here speaks the other collagist. Matthew, this is Bob Heyman. I wanted you to meet.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Wonderful collagist. I tried to connect you two on Facebook, but you can also connect each other if you're interested any other way. Besides kissing, no kissing on Zoom.
No, you should wear a mask. Here's another one. Now this is, I'm not sure why it's a little weird.
Is that 27?
Yeah. This is called Corona Island Diary. So
Let me first ask, is everybody seeing it?
Yes.
Okay.
So this panel is just basically people coughing.
Wonderful.
And then the last bit of text there is Trump Pence 2020. So it's funny because this one got a lot of people to comment on. It was interesting for me. I just had this idea: what if everybody coughed all the time? And what kind of society is that? And then the last panel does say in German and French and Spanish, "Sprechen Sie Corona, parlez-vous Corona, habla Corona." And then it's like the worldwide pandemic. Everyone is basically coughing. Okay, so that's one. I'll find another one here. It might be fun. I'll just choose one at random if that's okay. Let's see how that, I don't even know what this one is, but one of the interesting things about this is I have been promoting it in interesting ways on Twitter and Facebook. This is a bit longer one. This one is, I guess it was when we began to see the politics in America become angry and dangerous, and many people were dying. I suppose at the time, maybe 100,000 people had died, or 85, somewhere around that. So it's called "Don't Tread on Me."
Everybody sees it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Episode 32, if you're reading at home.
Yeah.
Hard to be a member of this cult. The Trump cult is all I got. Day in and day out. Just so difficult to swallow the truth. So dense, so heavy. And there's this woman moving through a train station. And then she says, "It's amazing, state-sanctioned killing." That's basically what happened and is happening now. And then the conductor or the man at the ticket gate says, "Rubbing humanity in our faces, don't tread on me," which is what, the earliest colonists said to the British. where's your mask? And then the woman says, you mean, where's my gun? And then someone says, hey, is that Mike Pence? And then the woman says, you should really gun up, neighbor. Don't be a mask-wearing egghead. Get a gun and embrace your freedom. And then continues saying, wearing a mask is for cowards. Carrying a gun is for heroes. Shoot a Democrat. Shoot a scientist. Grab a Bible and start hunting PhDs. And then the guy says, I've joined QAnon Anonymous. Our symbol is Q. Q stands for I fucking quit the rational world. And then another panel. Meanwhile, at Mar-a-Lago, bedbugs are fighting the coronavirus for dominance as Don Jr. recovers from being beat to shit by his ex-wife. And the woman says, I don't really care. It's not me that's sick. That's very typical of the Kens and Karens in Coronaville. And then a worker says, are you essential or sacrificial? I love the quality of Ivanka pumps. And then the woman says, what do we do in November if we lose?
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, that is exactly what is filling the heads of a lot of these, what I call Trump cultists at this point. They're still fighting, you know, to put, you know, Hillary in jail, and they all they want to do is talk about the Steele dossier and emails.
Matthew, can I just ask a question? So you created this early in the year, right? I mean, like, for example, before you have in the first box, it's amazing state-sanctioned killing. So that was prior to George Floyd being killed on television by police, right? Way before you had. I think it was released by then. Coronaville.
Exactly.
Then QAnon only became regular news about a week ago. Although you know, people had heard of it, but not to the extent. So again, I mean, you picked up on that early.
Yeah, I mined you know, whatever was out there. I mean, it didn't matter what news source it was, and some of them were pretty sketchy. I mean, if you look at things like Gateway Pundit or OAN, which is a basically Trump-sponsored television, you'll find a lot of interesting ideas that are shocking, and they're all out there. Here's another one. This is way back when. This was something that really attracted me. And I had this crazy idea. I mean, there was a time when Trump was trying to scare people about the caravans of Central and South Americans marching through Mexico to storm the U.S. border and scare the shit out of all these suburban housewives that they're coming to take you and kill you and rape you. And Trump even said it the other day. He said, I saved the suburbs, you white suburban females. You should vote for me. And I'm like, wow. In any case, I had this crazy idea of something called Illegals for Trump. And so that was episode 36. And if you want to, I'll read it for you.
Yes, please. Everybody sees 36, please.
It's
Yeah.
episode 36.
Okay. Good. Yes.
And then, so on top it says, if you really loved me, you'd let me sneeze in your eyes. That's love, Johnny. Adapt or die. Thoughts and prayers are a waste of time, you thoughtless half-wit. And he says, take a letter, Maria, seal it with a wet market kiss. And I mean, you have to understand that that whole wet market thing was something people talked about for a while when they were talking about the origin of the virus. It was the Chinese wet market in Wuhan. And then we have a priest who says, come all ye sheeple, join us in our postal ballot caravan. We are illegals for Trump. And then there's some kids on a road and they say, hey, it's the guy from Voter Mail Fraud Warehouse. Hola, election day chaos. And then the other guy says, amigo, vote for Trump. Watch evolution quick, click backwards. Hayuck. Obama election fraud. That's what people are saying. And then they continue, help us rig the election. I need a Corona now. Welcome, amigos. Donde es el wall? It's black, right? And then the guy says to him, do you believe in bleach? And then they're all there, all gathering. We are the illegal Mexican Postal Space Force. Without conspiracy theories, what would us jughead Republicans today believe in? See, we should sell t-shirts. And then the guy says, Trump was man of the year in Michigan.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what's so
mean,
amazing about it, you know, in total is just that as I said, we're looking at ourselves, but it's not in a soap opera, because here it really has to do with this other kind of truth, a really very truthful way that is so against the advertising truth that we see on TV and even in series and soap operas every day, that are supposed to show the real people, the true people. But here I feel we really do see what people are, you know, or some people are really thinking, saying, and etc. Yeah, I mean, I am very grateful with that force that you come through, and the creativity that you managed in this destiny of 40 days and 40 nights.
Yeah, it was like being
together.
Noah's Ark. Like, what am I going to do besides eat the animals?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I'm wondering if people have some questions. I mean, we probably have, you know, maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah,
I'm
please.
happy to talk and listen to
Anybody,
you.
please.
So my main question is just, I understand what you're doing and I appreciate what you're doing, and it's done very, very well. However, because so many people are not in world forums discussing things and knowing that this is all Orwellian, or now they call it alternative facts, right? Kellyanne Conway. My question is, aren't you pumping up the stupidity by putting all of the, you know, stupid people shit out there? You know, don't you feel like an ethical, moral imperative maybe to do something this smart, but for the prevention and the to get us to the other side, because you clearly have the skill set. And I don't know, I think if you're still wanting a project, I would just throw out there, would you consider doing this type of thing for the side that will help us live through this?
I'm happy to do that, but I mean, I'm an artist, and the thing that appeals to me is sort of like being right in between those two crazy sides. I mean, clearly I'm more left than right, and clearly I have a problem with right-wing talking points and the nonsense that comes out. I'm fascinated with the cult in a way, and I think maybe one thing that I could do that is useful, that people seem to agree with, is that just bringing it to light, the way, for instance, C-SPAN or CNN will just let Trump talk. And of course, maybe that helped get him elected, but it also is now helping to hang him and his entire family. I mean, what the craziest thing you'll see now is Don Jr. say, or Eric say, where's Hunter? Like Hunter Biden is an important person here. He's not. It's a total scandal that he's saying it, because Don Jr., Eric, and Ivanka have just been pickpocketing Americans forever. But the thing is, that's out there. You can see it. Now, is it possible, David, to change people's minds?
Well, I mean, that's the ethical, moral imperative that I'm laying the gauntlet out. I don't have the answer, but I think as an artist with the brilliant skill set you have, I would just say this. I'm just as obsessed as you about this nonsense. All the umbrella conspiracy theories under QAnon could hold my attention forever, but I know what side I'm on. But the people who are rallying and wearing the Q and buying the Q merch, they're not in world forums. deconstructing and reappropriating the discourse. So if you're going to do this, I'm just saying, would you consider, you skirted the actual answer to my question, would you consider implementing the same appropriation of discourse to the other side?
You mean to the left?
Just you're holding a space in these appropriations for everything that's coming out of sexism and racism and all these cultural markers that are now reappropriated for 2020 under these banners and captions that you're putting, that people are spewing propaganda, alternative facts. So I'm saying, is it possible that you could do the same thing and hold a different space for the other side? Meaning there's other sides of discourse. I'm not judging which side you're on or which side your reader's on.
I could take a position on, I could play the black pieces or the white pieces, or even, play Go while you play chess or checkers. I mean, could I do that? Perhaps. In terms of this discourse, and getting it out there, I mean, there are other people who are extremely good at putting information out there and massaging that message in a way that I think has a lot of people talking. The one group I'm thinking of is the Lincoln Project. But then on the other hand, you've got, Students for Trump, and, they're doing their thing. Do you have some people who, in the midst of this chaos, they're doing something else? Certainly are. They're playing music. They're painting flowers. They're creating sounds so you can go to sleep and move away from this chaos and actually get a good night's sleep.
Well, that's my point. Would you consider in a future project, I know you're an artist and you have sovereignty over what you choose, and you've chosen to do this. This is well done. I'm applauding it. My question, Gabriella, is leaning in towards future projects. I don't think you heard that correctly. So my question is, just to what you're saying, that there's all these other responses that some people are using the arts, like someone here posted some other public art of dissent by the deceased Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Put on the material.
20 seconds, David.
Okay, I am asking, and I want a specific answer, will you consider using your skill set that you've done here to hold other spaces and other perspectives? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So I have a question.
Thank you. Please, Michael.
Very, very quick. So it's really not about the left, right lean or anything like that. I think David was getting to, but it was Matthew. I hope you're considering future projects similar to this bande dessinée kind of thing.
Epilogue.
Yes, but you're going to have so many. It'll be such interesting subjects. Have you considered the subject? I mean, you could focus on the election. You got the post-election. Have you thought about it?
Yeah, I mean, I like the framework of this kind of work, because it brings together things that I like to do, which is to write, which is cutting and pasting and using images. I am appropriating and repurposing somebody else's graphic work, but I tried to pick something that was beyond its copyright. So,
yeah, it's almost a different art form. What did you call it? Do you have a name for it?
Repurposing. Yeah, it's repurposing. I mean, I tried to get some people from the comic book world to take a look at it, and one woman who runs a fairly large comic book website says, we don't cover repurposing comic books. Like they want someone to do all the drawings themselves and all the writing, and they want sort of a very clean look. I like the kind of messy look to it. It has that kind of individuality. So yes, I mean, that I like, and I mean, it did give me lots of ideas, although I can't really go shopping now because everything is closed. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts. You call it repurposing. I have a friend who is a noted cartoonist who banned in India for for talking back to Modi. And he basically did what you've done here, and they call it a graphic novel. And he's
Yeah,
been
that's what it
featured.
is.
Yeah,
That's what
and he's been featured in the New York Times. It's called Munnu, M-U-N-N-U, a boy from Kashmir, in which he talks about the troubles over there. So I think that's one comment. The other comment is, I think, picking up on what David said, would you then consider, since you live in France, I would be very interested to know about the demonization of the Muslim population for something that they haven't done, entire Muslim population. I would consider that, of course, the Zionism of Europe. Zionism doesn't include just Jews. There are Zionists in Saudi Arabia as well. So there's another very palpable, compelling topic for you if you wish to, of course, talk about the country in which you are living at the moment. Thank you very much.
I know what you're referring to. It was just the other day in Évreux, which is outside of Paris. A teacher was beheaded by a teenager for showing cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. And I don't know, I heard that he was warned not to do that, and he was killed, and it was filmed, it was put on Twitter, and then obviously taken down right away. It's a very interesting, very tricky, difficult area that artists and pretty much anyone is confronted with. And I don't think the answers to that are easy. People who hold their images dear and what's the way to put it? They are vulnerable in a way to how society manages these images. I mean, years ago, there was an artist who did something called Piss Christ, and I'm blanking on his name right now.
Andre Serrano.
Andre Serrano. So he took photographs of a crucifix in a jar of urine, and they were big and they were quite beautiful, although a lot of folks were like, piss Christ, I mean, that's really nasty. How could you be so nasty to Christians and Catholics? And he's like, well, I'm Christian Catholic, so I can do it. I have the right to do it. Although it offended lots of people.
But he was in the US, not in France. That's the
but
difference.
still, the US has got a massive Christian Catholic population. And the thing is, he was a global artist, so it offended everyone everywhere.
I know, I remember Giuliani banned it.
Yeah, I mean, and that wasn't the only thing. I mean, Robert Mapplethorpe and lots of other artists were banned because of the point of view they took, image-wise. And it's always going to be a dialogue that is fraught with anger on both sides. And I'm one to say that, without culture, we're just biology. So if that's our culture, well, then let's take a look at it. Let's confront it. But let's not kill each other.
Yep. Excellent.
That's kind of where I'm coming from. I don't mind if people say things about anybody, but don't, cut someone's head off. But what are you going to do? I mean, that's what somebody did. And are they crazy? I don't know. Are they mentally ill? I don't know.
It's not just that. It's also that there was a facha, meaning there was actually it's a judiciary system within the state of France. So they judged. How do you say? Sorry, I have all these other languages in my mind and other things in my mind. But a judge within the judge country, juristic system within a juristic system, and that's what's not possible. Besides the murder, of course. Right. Okay, another religion or culture within France cannot decide what is going to happen with a person, and that is what was happening on top of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
So Yeah. So I know, Matthew, that, well, first of all, I want to say it's always lovely to look out to future projects, but I think we all know what it's like when you just accomplished a book and you're still living within it, especially when in this case, the political arena has not changed at all and we're still in the heat of it. So I wouldn't blame you if you're not even thinking about other projects. The
Oh, no,
contrary, definitely. Since you are, I'm not sure, have you self-published or anyway? You're more interested in the sales project right now, in the sales way.
that's part of it, but I'm also, I'll throw up another image here while we talk. This is episode 39.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm downloading again.
The screen,
It takes a moment to download.
I got it.
Okay, great.
I'll see
Everybody,
I won't read it. I did want to say, I have another book project, and it also has the word Coronaville in it. I asked about 30 artists to send me a black and white drawing, and I brought that together. And we have a book, an essay by the great writer, art critic Dan Cameron, and I've worked out an arrangement with the Brooklyn Rail so that sales of this coloring book, the black and 100% to benefit the Brooklyn Rail, which is a nonprofit in Brooklyn. You probably know it if you live in the New York area or probably elsewhere.
well,
So
we had a writer from the Brooklyn Rail recently,
Who was
Valerie Ostenau.
Oh yeah, I know him.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So that should be coming together, I'd say, within a week or two, celebrating their 20th anniversary. And they will distribute this money to nonprofits they work with, artists in need, etc. So we hope that will do some good.
Will they serialize that new work?
The cartoons?
Yeah.
The cartoons are done by artists all over the world.
Right,
so
right. But are they going to print some?
they can do what they want to promote it, if that helps promote it and generate sales.
Yeah.
And will help artists, sure. I mean, whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
But that will be a book like this one that will be sold, and I'm hopeful that other people will participate to get it out there, because that this situation is just dire for anyone writing, playing music, any kind of culture worker is really stuck. You can't show your work easily. You can't play music. You can't go to the grocery store without it being a whole, effort, a major effort. So people are struggling.
Matthew is incredible in collaborating with other artists and putting these global collaborations together. Matthew, maybe you want to talk briefly about your project from a few years ago.
Okay, there's a minute left. I did something, and you can look on the web. There's a movie. It's called A Book About Death. If you just say A Book About Death, 10 years ago, we did an exhibition in New York City at the Emily Harvey Foundation Gallery. And I invited artists to send me 500 works on paper, postcards, whatever, on the subject of death. It was a project that riffed off of a project by Ray Johnson. And we filled the gallery with 487 works. And since that time, it was amazing. You can see the movie, it'll blow your mind. And since that time, we've had 30 restagings of that exhibition. And the last one was in Japan this past December in Kawasawa, Japan. But all that stuff is documented, and it was amazing. Altogether, we worked with 5,000 artists across the world, roughly. I didn't count, but it was an interesting community that came from that. So there you go. There's a minute left. So I just want to say thank you, Gabriella, for hosting this, and thank you all the folks who came, and really appreciate it. Very nice to see you and talk about this project.
Bravo, Matthew.
Looks like a great work.
Thanks to you.
Thank you, Matthew. Great work. Great to
Thank you, Matthew.
Okay.
have this possible.
Thank you, Gabriella. Thank you.
Yeah.
Say hi to Susie and Paloma for me. See how-
You could see the book on the website blurb. Get a copy. Send me